Hi everyone, and welcome to week 12. Can you believe it? We're at it feels like the very end of the term. There's still a couple of things to do. So I guess the very end of the teaching term. So congratulations on making it this far. My name is obviously Bree. I'm sure you know me by now. I'm one of the unit coordinators this term. And today I'm joined by Trixie on chat. So she'll be monitoring that if you want to pop anything in chat. So, Module 12, we look back at where we've come from, and then we also look forward to the future of where we're going. But first of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians throughout Australia, their connection to land, sea, and community. And I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations peoples joining us today. So, final lecture this week, final tutorial, final Zoom session, final teaching. We're wrapping up that side of it this week. So thanks so much for everyone for coming. And hopefully you'll have a lovely final tute on Tuesday for on-campus students, or for online students, Trixie will be running the session on Wednesday at 5 if you would like to come along for that final Zoom session. We're coming to the end, wrapping it up. Now, hopefully most of you have submitted your Learning Portfolio B. It was due on Friday, just gone. If you've had any issues, please reach out to your support lecturer ASAP about an extension, or possibly you've already put in your extension. If that's the case, well done. But yeah, congrats to everyone who got it in and is feeling probably a bit of relief. That's one more thing done. So we'll be busy marking that over those LPBs over the next 2 weeks. So the return date for all on-time submissions, so all submissions that were popped in on that Friday, the Friday just gone, they will be returned on Friday, the 11th of October. So if you've got an extension, late submission, they'll be a little bit later, but all the on-time ones, you can be checking your computer in the afternoon, I would suggest, of Friday, the 11th of October, and they'll be there ready for you to have a look. So congrats, everyone. Okay, with a bit of housekeeping out of the way, today we're going to be doing this lecture. It's a little bit different than all our other lectures. We do it in 2 parts. So the first part is this one. You've made it. Well done. Welcome to part 1. And in this one, we do our live lecture, which obviously is also recorded as usual. And we reflect on prep skills, and we also look forward to our future studies. Part 2 is a little bit different, and I'll talk about it closer to the end of this lecture, but it's actually pre-recorded. Chris Cook, our STEPS head of course, does that for us, and it talks more about how to apply for university, the process of direct entry, some tips, all of those sorts of important things. So that's part 2 of the lecture. But here we are in part 1, so welcome. So if you cast your minds way back to, well, 12, almost 13 weeks ago with the break week, at the very beginning in week 1, we talked about how we have learning outcomes in prep skills, and we have learning outcomes for all of our units at CQ University, both steps and when you go on to do your undergraduate degree. And in prep skills, we have 6 of them. And our first one is to develop strong study habits, effective learning strategies to become a confident and self-directed learner. We also want you to set and manage goals for your individual study and career paths. We want to apply critical thinking skills in a range of contexts with particular focus on critical self-reflection. We hope to be able to teach you to find and evaluate relevant scholarly research, to negotiate the systems and procedures at university, and to develop communication skills which are appropriate for higher education. So what do we think? Do we feel like we've met some of those learning outcomes? Can anyone think of some ways, maybe hearing those words like goals, communication, systems, procedures, scholarly research? Can we think of some ways in which we've met those? I can see Tristan nodding. So I have a question for everyone. Thinking about all of those, our aims and those things we wanted to instill in you from prep skills, what this term have you learned about yourself? pop it in the chat. Tell me what have you learned about you this term? Or you can yell it out too.
Yeah, if they want to say it out loud,
Yeah.
definitely unmute and share. So Linda says organised and determined. I love that.
I love that too.
Yeah, determined.
Trait.
Actually, that came up in my thesis, was this determined hope is what I call it.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot more of that in the future. So that's really good, Linda. And to be honest, most what we find is successful people are the ones that actually can manage their time well. So if you are organising yourself, then yeah, you're on track for success.
Yeah.
That's all in the chat, Bree. They're all very quiet this morning.
Oh, that's unlike.
Oh, here you go. Oh, now that started comes through. Oh, Ali, this is funny. She says a lot. I can procrastinate, but she's still capable of studying. So that's a positive. Sometimes, Ali, think about it instead of procrastination. Think about it as a goal. Thinking time. You need to think about things, and then you really work hard to get to that due date. And Keisha says, I can keep up with my emails. I can time manage. I need to continue to work on my note-taking skills. So there you go.
Thank you. I think too, it's not a bad thing if you are a procrastinator. It's not a bad thing to know that. So that is something. If you've learned that about yourself, not a bad thing to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ali says the biggest difference is that she's aware of it, and that is you are aware of it. So yeah,
lovely. All right.
It's definitely shown me where my shortcomings are in regard to higher education. It's a lot different doing this to a lot of the trade and technical courses I've done in the past. So it's been a brilliant sort of easing into the university study process.
Oh, excellent, Tristan. Yeah, it's all those skills and things that you in all different places. Hey, there's different ways of learning. Yeah. Yep. So
but I can definitely see application for this no matter where I end up from here on.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. So looking back again, thinking back to the very beginning of the term, we said in week 1 that university study is a little bit like a roller coaster ride. So there's highs, there's lows, it's ups, it's downs. And I want to know what your highs were. What were some of the really good things this term? What were the things that you're really happy with? I know you're all itching to say my oral presentation. I loved it. It was the greatest thing I've ever done. Everyone's favorite. Does anyone have any highs? Really good things?
So Keisha says, handing in my assessments on time.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a great feeling too. When you can set that goal and get it in on time. Yep, absolutely. It's a great feeling. Let's wait for our thing to pop over. Come on, chat.
Yeah. And that's it. If that's, it's just one step at a time sometimes, Keisha. So, yeah.
Tristan, thanks, Tristan. He's been loving the lectures. They've been interesting and engaging, but he did enjoy the oral presentation. Oh, you're just trying to get brownie points from Bree, aren't you? Keisha loves connecting with other students, and Ali says, I've just enjoyed all of it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Linda, hello, Linda. I love the critical thinking module. Well done. Yes. Changes your whole way of thinking, doesn't it? You really start to critique a lot of things around you. After you've done that module, you'll watch the news and you'll critique it. You listen to someone, some loudmouth, and you'll, where'd you get that from? So you'll, yeah, I think it's a great module.
Yeah, I really like the logical fallacies in that module. You start to sort of spot them everywhere after you learn about what they are. Yeah.
And then you'll be listening to something and go, oh, that's a all or nothing, or that's a overgeneralization.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so good skills to have, but also interesting.
Yeah. Even the Facebook, you're exactly right, Linda. You check the Facebook posts and you're sort of thinking, is that trying to cross that or not?
Advertising's another big one for me. Once I sort of learned a lot more about that, every time I see an ad now, I'm like, I know what you're up to.
Yeah, exactly. And Keisha says, even, struggle watching the news even more now.
Yeah.
And Tristan goes 9 out of 10 dentists.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I like that too.
Love
Oh,
it.
that's good.
Very good.
Now I'm thinking maybe I should have done these back to front because I feel like I'm ending on a down. But anyway, what about the lows? What were some of the things people found tricky, maybe struggled with, maybe want to work on? It's not, unfortunately, always a smooth, easy ride.
Keisha did say the oral presentation.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I know. It always comes up. Keisha, is that because you're an online student, is that because of the actual presentation itself, or is it the task of having to get an audience and do it? I'd love to sort of hear that on the chat. And Tristan says initial self-reflection. Oh, interesting. In your LPA. So did it get better, Tristan, as with LPB once you've done it once? Did you find it a bit easier? Yeah, great. Yeah. Yeah, and even Linda, self-reflection. Actually, I hear that a lot. People aren't used to self-reflecting, and it's really uncomfortable to start with. So, Keish, not a confident speaker. Oh, yes. 69%, hey? There is still 31% of extrovert there, that means.
Hiding somewhere. Yeah.
Hiding.
Yeah.
Hiding.
Self-reflection is really tricky. The first time I ever had to write any self-reflection was in undergrad. And I think it's really, obviously, I am in prep skills, so of course I think this, but I think it's really valuable to do some self-reflective writing earlier rather than later, because I had gotten probably, I don't know, maybe a term. I'd probably done one term, and then in my second term, I had my first self-reflective assignment at university. And up until then, I'd never been asked to write about myself at all, or like ever. It was just like, we don't want to hear about that. You're writing, you're writing an essay, you're writing a report. It's all very technical. And then it was all like just a flip, like, okay, well, now you're reflecting. And it was really tricky for me. So I can totally relate to that. I was like, oh, now I need to, actually think about me, not just the topic and what I think and how I view things. And, so
interesting that you've experienced that, because I experienced the exact opposite, where I was a big journalist. I found it easy to write about me. The problem was I didn't know how to write about me in a critical way. So I wrote very conversationally. My first ever assessment, it was, it just was so colloquial and just it's very conversational, and I got a really bad grade. And it shocked me. So I had to learn very quickly that there is this, when you talk self-reflection in university, it actually needs to be this higher level of language and critical self-reflection.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing. It's funny because I've always loved writing, and I'm a bit same tricks. I have always been a writer, but I think I just got it in my head that that's not what you do in university. You don't write about yourself. So when they asked me to reflect on things, I was like, what are you talking about?
How do I do that?
How do I do that? I'm not meant to talk about me. But so it's, I don't know. I obviously from that experience think it's good to have a bit of a test ground early on to then, so when it happens in undergrad, you're not shocked by it.
Absolutely. And so much more. They're doing a lot more of that, especially with Gen AI now. They need to do this, a lot more self-reflection and linking to the theory that you're learning. It's happening a lot more.
That's right. Okay. So looking forward, looking to our futures, I'd love to know what people's goals are now and maybe how you're planning for the journey, but also if they've changed. So did you maybe have a goal at the very beginning and it's changed? You've changed career goals, directions, they stayed the same, been confirmed. And I'd love to know how everyone's planning and looking ahead, or if those plans have changed too, because that can make a big difference.
So Keisha's to perfect note-taking, note-making skills. Definitely you will get better at that as you practice and do it more. And you'll actually get your own style of doing it. You'll get your own nichey way of doing it. So that's good.
You've got to learn that about yourself, I think.
What works for you? Because back in the day, a lot of it was done by hand. Like we used to handwrite all our notes, whereas now it's more computer. So a lot more people are using computer programs to take their notes up, meaning Word, creating templates. And then comes how do you file? How do you save it so that it's easy to find?
And you find it again. Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's all in the chat at the moment. Ali, goals are staying the same. I just feel so much more confident. Yeah, that's wonderful, Ali.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Thanks for sharing, Ellie.
The only thing that's really changed for me is prospects of jobs have broadened. So there's now a few different options for what I'm going to do after steps.
Oh, that's
Great.
excellent, Tristan.
So that was the
Yeah.
careers module helped you with that?
Well, the careers module really sort of focused on things I've done in the past even. I found it quite amusing that the top of the list was firefighter. So it was like, yeah, that's known. There were a few things
Accurate.
in there I hadn't considered in there. And after doing steps, the ADF is actually much more sort of welcoming to me potentially going in as a pilot even.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's good to sort of broaden, you know, and think about bigger options and other ways of doing things. And I don't know, I think, yeah, sometimes I'm talking about me a lot today. Sorry, everyone. This is just Bree's monologue. But when I first went to uni, I initially planned on being a high school teacher. I wanted to teach history and English at high school. And I just, because that's all I thought, you know, that was my only options for teaching. You know, you either were a school teacher or you weren't a teacher at all. And it wasn't until I sort of progressed through my degree that I sort of started to realize, because I didn't really love the high school environment, that I started to realize that there were other options. So it's nice to sort of, yeah, broaden those ideas.
Just sending you a message, Tristan.
Don't worry, I'm watching the chat too. And after I finish on here, I'm off for an interview with the fire brigade, potentially get a role as an auxiliary.
Oh, okay, great.
So that's something I should be able to do alongside uni.
Yeah,
excellent.
absolutely. That's good.
Very good. So we do have a couple of different activities this week. If you'd like to have a look at them, they're all on Moodle. And there's a bit of a reflection you can complete, and I'll show you it in a little bit. And it talks about what you first wanted to get out of steps, so as a student and as a person. And it asks you to revisit your contract. So if you can, again, cast your minds back, way back in the beginning to week 1, where we talked about your contract and what you promised yourself. So some of you may have sent this off to your support lecturer or your on-campus lecturer, and if so, they will be returning it to you this week. So keep an eye out on your emails or in class. But if you've kept this for yourself somewhere, filed it away, pull it out, have a bit of a read, see what your goals were then, what you wanted to get out of steps, what you are hoping to achieve. And then you can jump on to Moodle and grab this little activity 12-1, and you can have a bit of a look. It has some prompts. It looks at, you know, how did you achieve to set out what you wanted to do? And maybe you haven't yet, because maybe, you know, you've got another term of steps or another 2 terms of steps, but you can note that. And then things you might want to work on. So as Keisha said, maybe note taking, like Ali said, maybe that overcoming some of those procrastination habits, and thinking a bit more about where to from here. And like Tristan said, that might be broadening your options and thinking outside the square in terms of what you want to pursue as a career or to study. So I'd suggest in your own time having a bit of a look at this activity. If you're going to class, an on-campus class this week, potentially you might be doing this one in class, or your lecturer might have a copy for you all. But yeah, have a look. It's sometimes nice. Sometimes we just sort of power ahead, especially at uni, and we think of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But sometimes it is nice to sort of get to the end of the term and look back and see how far you've come, because it's not a quick journey at university, unfortunately. It takes years. So we do have to sort of stop and acknowledge where we've come from. And yeah, celebrate that a little bit. So before I move on to next term, is there anything in the chat, Tricks, or anything I need to be aware of? No, we're all good. Very good. Okay, so next term, some important stuff. We are looking not so much in the past now, but to our futures. So make sure that you are prepared and ready to go for next term. That might be another term in steps, or you might be looking forward to your undergraduate degree, whatever it is. Couple of tips and tricks. All of these are also mentioned in the Prep Skills Study Guide, so you can go there for information. But you'll see here, this is an image of the CQ Uni handbook. Hopefully most of you have been on the handbook before. but it has this lovely key dates section. So make sure you know what the key dates are. You don't want term 3 to surprise you. So hop on there, click key dates, and it comes up with a calendar. And if you click this academic calendar button, it gives you the nice print, like, well, I don't know, I think it's nice, but I've been reading it for a long time, the sort of color-coded 3-term calendar that looks a little bit like this one. So you can see here, we're coming to the very end now. We're at the 30th of September, so that's week 12. We've then got this pink and green review / exam period, and then everyone's favorite yellow section, the break. And then we're going to come back and do it all again. So if you're looking forward and you're doing term 3, keep that in mind, 4th of November start date. If you're having maybe a bit of a break, make sure you have a look for the 2025 calendar. So that's the calendar that starts in March next year. So keep an eye on that. Just to flag something, a couple of people have asked me this term, which is a good question. Your units, so if you're enrolled in, more steps units next term, let's say you did prep skills and fundamental maths this term, next term maybe you're doing essay writing and biology, they're going to appear on your Moodle sites automatically. You don't have to do anything about them on the 21st of October. So that's when all of the new units for next term open and you'll be able to access them. If you're concerned about anything to do with your units, your study plan, you're a bit lost, just reach out to your access coordinator. But yeah, make sure you know where we're going. So download this one. You can download it as a PDF. Okay. So looking to the future, I have a question for all you smart cookies out there. Does anyone know what a GPA? Anyone ever heard of a GPA?
Oh, so quick. Yep. Grade point average. Well done, guys.
But
Jordan, I think, must have known you was coming because he was just on
read
point.
my mind. Just going to ask about GPA any minute. Yeah.
And yes, Linda, something you're working towards. That's
Lovely.
exactly right.
Yes, that's right. So there's a little bit of a calculation example in the study guide. So yes, you'll often hear GPA, but as everyone has said in the chat very quickly, that's your grade point average. So it's more or less your marks averaged out across your term or across each of your terms. And these can be quite important, especially if you're looking at any quota-based courses. So a lot of courses at CQU are just direct entry, but there are some that are quota, so they're a bit competitive. So a couple of the medical ones like medical imaging, oral health, sonography. So maybe just check back, look at your study plan, maybe double check with your access coordinator. If you are going for a quota-based course, it is a bit important to keep an eye on your GPA. Obviously, it's important for everyone. We all want to get good grades, but especially important if you're looking at those courses. So you can see here, we allocate a number to each of the grades you can get. So a pass, credit, distinction, and high distinction. And there's a little simple way below, a bit of an example there from Stan, our example friend, who's gotten some HDs, a C, a D, and a P, and has worked out their GPA from there. So just keep that in mind. All that calculation is in the study guide, so you can have a bit of a look at that and make sure you're on track. Maybe you can, even if you're not too needing it necessarily for quota entry, maybe you can just brag about it. Like GPA of 7 is nothing to sniff at. So tell your friends. So make sure you have a look at that one. You should also be really familiar, and probably you are by now, but just in case you're not, with your student portal. This becomes even more important when you become an undergraduate student, because there are quite a few things that get sort of done in the background in steps, a lot of your enrollment, things like that you don't have to do yourself. But when you become an undergraduate student, you do need to go in, enroll yourself in your units for next term. So if that's where you're headed to undergrad, make sure you're really familiar with this portal. You click on it just from the main CQU website, and then it comes up and it's got this little bar here down the side, and you can see your study, your support, your calendar, all your stuff's in there. So if you haven't already, have a bit of an explore of the student portal, get yourself ready so you know where everything is. As well as that, there's heaps of information in the study guide this week about support services. So again, this differs a little bit. If your next journey is to undergrad, it does differ a bit from STEPS. So in STEPS, you have a lot of support from us, your support lecturers, from your access coordinator, but there's a lot of different support services out there for undergrad students. And oh, give me one sec, Trix. Yeah, and one of them is student advice. So if you're having trouble applying or enrolling or anything like that into undergrad, they're your people. You could call or you can email. Their phone number and their emails in the study guide and the screen here. You can also pop in and see them at a local campus if you're on campus. Yes, Trix.
Keisha just asked if we can tell her more about where they can find the scholarships.
Oh, yeah, yep. There is also information in the study guide about scholarships, but if you go to, give me one sec, I'll bring it up. Let me just get the website right. Yeah,
and look, it's really worth going. Here we are. Dean's just threw them into the chat as well. Thanks, Dean. Some of the different scholarships. Look, it's really worth going for them. There are a number out there. And thanks. Keisha knew where they were, but she wants everyone else to be aware of them. That's good. Thanks, Keisha.
Spread the word.
Spread the word, but yes, definitely worth going for them.
So I think Dean's popped this in the chat. Thanks, Dean. Always a very speedy person to pop links in the chat. Good job. We might have to call you back in future terms. So this is the scholarships page. If you scroll down, you can see that you can browse scholarships. You can also contact the scholarships team about it. They can help you. It gives you some information you can read through. You've got some frequently asked questions. So have a bit of an explore. Yeah, I can't stress enough how important it is and how helpful these scholarships can be. And honestly, this is recorded, but just between you and me, I've been on a couple of scholarships panels and not that many students often apply. So there's often lots of decent scholarships and people just don't even realise. So have a bit of a look. I notice especially with the area specific ones, I think a lot of people don't apply for. So, I know Bundaberg has some that's on to support. Gladstone has a few different ones that local industry support. I think Mackay does too. So if you are in one of those locations, there's heaps of them, have a look. And often those ones are the ones people miss. So that might be, a good opportunity for you. But thanks, Keisha. That's really helpful to bring up. Okay. So yeah, lots of support, lots of different things. So please have a look. Some of them you might already be familiar with, like counselling and careers that we got to meet this term. You'll still have access to those services as an undergraduate student. But there's also lots of other areas. The Ally program is an LGBTQI plus support program here at CQU. There's Indigenous student support. There's the Academic Learning Centre that can help you with your maths, your academic communication skills, science, computing. There's IT, there's the library, so many things. Have a read of your study guide, note them down, maybe do a bit of highlighting of the ones you might want to keep in mind because they're there to look after you and they're there to help you. So yeah, most of the things you would have had support with in STEPS will cross over to undergrad, but there might be some new things. So have a look, make sure you're on top. Any questions in the chat, Tricks, or anything I need to address before I move to my next bit? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Oopsie. Jordan did say, just noted that the moment there is a lot for standard students, unless you live in a regional or low income. And that is true. Like equity students will tend to have more opportunities for scholarships because that's what they're for, is to really help them. But keep your eye open because you might not have many right now, but throughout the year, it'll change, especially at the start of the term. So early January, there'll be a lot more up there. So just keep your eye out. I don't know, Jordan, if you'll actually find any specifically for social work, but what you will find are other standard types of ones that'll help you to cover, say, textbooks, not that you buy textbooks, but other sort of costs that might be involved in your study. So just keep your eye open for, what's out there.
Yeah, actually, thanks, Trix. That's a good point. Some of them don't come up. So you might have a look now and there won't be as many there. They do tend to really bump up those scholarships coming up to term 1. So keep an eye on them over sort of this, term
Yeah,
3
absolutely.
period.
And Tristan's got a good point. ADF actually, if anyone's thinking about it, ADF actually helped to pay for you to do university. But it's an option that you have to want to be in the Defence Force for quite a period of time if you're going to take that route. So keep that in mind. 5 years, you've got to do it. But I thought it was something like 7 years. I was going to say, I thought it was about 8 years you have to give back after you've done a degree. Yeah.
So you really need to.
Yeah, 7 years is the minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
Absolute bare minimum. And amazingly, they'll take you up until you're 52.
Yes. Yes, they will. They will.
I thought I was too old because I just turned 40 yesterday, and I was like, well, there we go.
Happy birthday.
No, but a baby, Tristan.
Yes.
Can you tell I'm getting closer and closer to 40? I keep moving the goalpost of what a young person is. I'll be 80 and saying that.
Still get carded every now and again.
Oh, there you go. Still young. Yeah, so keep an eye on those scholarships, as we said. Another thing I just thought of, actually, obviously there's lots of scholarships on the CQ website, but actually Tristan bringing up the ADF, there are some external scholarships as well. So keep an eye out for those. I just was thinking, because I did have a student a couple of years ago apply. The ADF has some scholarships for people whose parents have served. So yeah, if your parents have served at all, you might be worth having a look at those. But yeah, there is quite a few different things out there that aren't even, on the CQ website. So have a look. Okay, so make sure you're all across that. Lots of info in there. There's also lots of information on the STEPS Moodle site as well. So that sort of main STEPS site, if you want to have a look at some of the things on there as well. So heaps of information so that you're making this transition to undergrad. All right. So moving forward a little bit more to the future, not just the next step, but I'm hoping that throughout this term, you've really learnt and probably got a bit of a feel for how much university study is quite a privilege. And it's also got lots of benefits. So, I loved my study. I guess that's why I never left. So I really enjoyed being at university, but there's lots of things and outcomes that it can really assist with. So often people who have a university education have better job outcomes. They've even found in studies that it can lead to better health outcomes, self-efficacy, so belief in oneself or one's ability. So lots of different things that can come from having a university education, whatever that is. It's just like any education. It broadens your mind, broadens your prospects, makes you understand new and different things. It's also, there's been some interesting information come out. This one was posted in The Guardian about recessions and unemployment rates during recessions. And they found often that people with bachelor's, grad dips, grad certs, postgrad degrees, even just advanced diplomas, you can see how, often the employment rates stay quite high. So this is like how employment drops. So it's interesting how university can have lots of different benefits, whatever reason you're doing it for and whatever you study. But my personal favorite is the ripple effect. So they've found that there's a ripple effect in doing a degree, that often it may encourage others in your life to follow a similar path. And I think that's so important. I know so many STEP students who they might have a mum, a sister, their kids, their partner, who'd always wanted to go to university, who'd always wanted to, become a nurse, become an engineer, become a teacher, but they never really felt that they could. And then watching someone else in their life do it made them realize, maybe I can do this. This is something that I'm capable of. This is something that I can do. So I think the ripple effect is probably one of the most important parts about having a uni education. And we see so many people come to university, and I see it in the forums and people I talk to just anecdotally in class, that they've come to university because they want a career, or they want a degree, or they have a goal, but also that they want to show their kids that they can do this and that their kids can do it too. And that's, I think, a really valuable reason to come to university. So yeah, my personal favourite is a bit of the ripple effect. All right. So this lecture is going to be a bit of a quicker one because we do have that extra part too. But I'm going to leave you with a couple of tips for success. Hopefully you already know a lot of these from your term, but maybe some of them you can lock down. So number one is to be an active learner. And you're already doing that. You come to class, you come to Zoom, you contribute. I'm sure Trixie looks like she's very, concentrating on that chat. You're talking in the chat, you're being active. So take ownership, be prepared, come along.
Sometimes it's called sort of multitasking.
Yeah. So take a bit of ownership of your studies. So we find that the students that succeed the most are the ones that jump in, get involved, come along. So be active. My number two is apply self-awareness to your future learning. So as we talked about, the importance of reflecting and critical self-reflection and understanding where you might, have pros and cons and things, strengths, things you need to work on. Keep doing that. Keep those in mind, because you can keep working on this forever. It's lifelong learning. You're always going to be making changes, making things better, making things easier. So keep that in mind, that you can keep learning, keep adjusting things, keep making things work for you. And don't be afraid to try new things. Don't get in a rut. Don't think, oh, well, I've always, read my book and highlighted my pages and, that's just how I do it. Do something different. Write some notes, scribble on it. I don't know, whatever it is that you want to have a go at it, because you might find a way that works better for you, and then you can apply that to all your future learning. Number three, be aware of self-sabotage. So we've already talked about the P word, but keep an eye out for that disorganization, procrastination, distractions. Look at this room. I don't really cope with mess. I know some people can thrive in it, but I don't cope with it. So this is just like a lot for me. But also be aware, there's lots of different types of self-sabotage. So maybe you're making your house a mess like this, but maybe you're one of these people too, who is becoming a bit of a perfectionist, comparing yourself to others. You get that distinction on your assessment and you go, oh no, but it wasn't a high distinction. It's the worst thing in the world. So be aware that self-sabotage can come out in all different places. It's not just in a messy study area. It can also be in being overly, trying to make things overly perfect and getting the very best of everything. Sometimes you've just, I don't even want to say you've got to accept a distinction, because distinction's a good grade. That's a good grade, and you should be really pleased with yourself for getting a distinction.
The main thing is to just always try your best and be happy with what you've done, because it is the best you can give. You can't ask for any more than that. That's
right, Tristan. And I think we often have to learn that the hard way as adults. You can only give what you can give. And if it's the best you can give, you've got to be happy with that. That's right. And probably further to that, my number 4 is to keep a positive attitude. So we talked this term and we heard from Sarah in counselling about resilience, managing stress, mindfulness. All of those things can really help us to stay positive about our study. And you might remember this Matthew from our stress management module, and his story about how he lost his limbs in an operation to save his life. And he went on to carry the baton for the Brisbane Commonwealth Games. So, he'd had a major setback, and then he looked forward to the future, went through rehab, and went on to become a bit of an athlete there. So lots of positive things that you can do in maybe not so positive situations. But also, we also have to accept that there's going to be highs and lows. Like I talked about at the beginning, We all have had highs and lows this term. We're always going to have highs and lows in any journey. So we've got to take the good with the bad sometimes and just keep on pushing through with that resilience that you can get through this. Last but not least, number 5 is to remember your goals. Keep them front of mind. You might need to prioritize them. This is a great one from Melissa. Melissa was training as well to do a bike ride, you can see here, and she combined that with reading her study guide. So she was doing her training, reading her study guide, putting 2 goals together to make them happen. So that's remembering your goals, keeping them front of mind. And sometimes it helps to keep in mind the bigger picture. When I was at uni, this is what I think got me through, because I love a silly hat and an outfit. So I always used to think about myself finishing my degree, getting to wear my mortarboard, crossing that stage. So keep that bigger picture in mind. You can be like these lovely gowned up students here. And Trix this year got to wear an even sillier hat than I did at her PhD graduation.
I know.
Was that what you looked forward to, Trix?
When I first put it on, my daughter said to me, you paid how much to, to look like that?
Oh.
Oh, no. But it is a big, funny, baggy hat.
It is. It is. I thought your gown and everything was beautiful, though, in the red and the black. So
I felt very special. I think it's one of the things,
yes.
like, I loved graduating from my bachelor when I did.
Yeah.
And it was even extra special, you know, to get to that next level and graduate. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It's just an amazing feeling knowing you've done all that work and you get to walk across that stage. You know, I felt like I was beaming.
Yeah. Yeah. Such an important moment. So please, we would love to hear your thoughts in the forum. So there'll be a forum about looking back, looking forward this week. So feel free to pop in your final thoughts into that one on Moodle. We also have our unit and teaching evaluations out this week. Please, last week, sorry, they came out end of week 11. So please go back, check your emails for this link. We really do value your feedback. So if there's anything you have to add, anything you want to say about prep skills, anything you really love or anything you think could be adjusted, please let us know. We do read these. We do actually do something about it. If you're interested, you can actually go to the unit profile and see the changes we make. We actually put in a couple of things each term, or each year, sorry, some goals based on your feedback. So you can actually see those in the unit profile if you're interested. So we do read them, I promise. We do actually care what you think and what we can do to make an even better unit. This is from a while ago, but I really love this little quote from an online student from 2016. And they initially said about prep skills that they were going to be honest. I was a little skeptical about this unit at first. What's so difficult about studying? Boy, was I mistaken. Prep skills has pushed me out of my comfort zone and taught me some invaluable skills, which I put to use in my undergrad degree and also in my personal life. I'm more self-aware and far more confident in my ability to study. It's kind of amazing to see how far I've come. And that's often the feedback we get with prep skills. I know I have a student who always comes to orientation to talk to my new students here in Gladstone. And she always says to them, and it's so funny, she always says, oh, prep skills, you think it'll be this fluffy, silly, easy unit, but trust me, it's the one you'll keep using term in, turn out when she gets to undergrad. And she said, I remember she came to her first class and was like, this is silly. I can be a student. You have to teach me to be a student. But you'll be surprised how many of these things stick with you and you'll keep using them in your undergrad degree and hopefully even in your personal life. Okay. So just a few reminders. Quiz 2 is still coming up. It's due Tuesday, the 8th of October, public holiday on the Monday, based on modules 1, 11 and 12. So make sure you complete that one. It's a good one. It's only worth about 10%, but it can bump you if you're on that borderline grade between, 2 grades. It can always bump you over. So don't forget about it. Pretty please. Also, a couple of other things to highlight. There's some really great student testimonials on the Moodle site if you'd like to have a look. These are from some Gladstone students from a few years ago. And it talks about their perspective So you can watch that one. Part 2, as I've already mentioned, is the applying to university. So what happens after steps? Chris Cook is doing that one for us. He'll tell us all about that. So watch that one especially if you're going to be applying soon, make sure you know the process and you know how to do it. So Chris will talk you through that in that part 2 video.
And so just on a side note,
yes.
A couple were asking about is the enrollment around the same for across all courses next year? And I mentioned about direct entry. So for anyone that's a little bit uncertain about direct entry, make sure you watch this. But Bree, you are an access coordinator. So can you just explain to them about direct entry and when they need to do it? And
yeah. So you generally apply for, I can't remember the dates off the top of my head exactly, but you generally want to apply for your degree the term before you start. So if you're looking to apply for next term, for term 3, you need to get on that soon. The cutoff date, I think, is late October. So you want to get on it quick to get your application in so you're ready to go for term 3, which starts in November. However, not all degrees have a term 3 start. A lot of degrees only start in term 1 or term 2. You can apply whenever. All that will happen is if you still haven't finished steps, you'll get a conditional offer on the condition that you successfully complete your final steps units. So if you're looking to apply for term 1, I'd also be getting onto that, even just over the break period before term 3, get it out of the way, get your application in. Usually the term 1 applications do close a bit earlier, usually around December. That's because that's the biggest intake term 1. So many, you think, school leavers, students coming back to uni, STEP students are all applying to try and start in March next year. So we do try to get our STEPS ones in early so that, we know how many STEP students are going in and we can hold those guaranteed places. So yeah, you can apply at any time, but if you watch that video with Chris, he'll talk you through the actual process. But term 3, do it ASAP for the end of October. If you're looking for term 1, do that one before December. So you've still got a bit of time. And keep an eye out to your access coordinator. You should be getting weekly emails from your access coordinator, whether you're online or an on-campus student. And they will tell you in those emails. They'll reach out and tell you those cutoff dates. So keep an eye out for those. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, just with the continuation of steps for students like myself who are doing next semester, all that's covered off by our access coordinators, yes?
Yes, yeah. That's all good.
Just want to make sure there's nothing I have to tick off or press OK to online.
No, it'll just sort of transfer over. Those units will pop up. So your next units will pop up, later. I think it's the 21st of October, 2 weeks before the start of term.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll pop up on your Moodle page. But I don't know, Tristan, if you've had an epiphany and decided you want to be something completely different,
I definitely want to complete all this, but that's one of the things the people from the ADF said is by doing this course, it makes it a lot easier for me to go in through ADFA and officer entry because they know that I'll be applicable to a university course rather than me having to potentially sit more exams and prove myself more so.
Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, but if anything does change or you change your mind about your direction, do for everybody, not just Tristan, to let your access coordinator know because they may have to adjust things. If you were gunning to be a teacher and now you want to be an engineer, the entry requirements are different. So just keep them in the loop. Anything else in the chat, Trix, or anyone else have any questions before I?
No, very quiet in there.
Quiet. Okay. All right, we're coming to the end. Everyone's asleep. I've had a big term. Okay. Oh, and that video too, just so you know, I was just going to mention this one from Chris. It's pretty quick. It's about 12 minutes, I think. So not a super long one, but it will give you all the info you need to know to get started. All right. So my last final message really is that this could be you, and hopefully we'll hear about it in the future. All these lovely students doing their teaching and speech pathology and digital media and physio, nursing, and something in a lab looking very smart. So all of these things can be you. So keep that front of mind And maybe if I'm extra lucky, you might graduate at a graduation I'm at, and we can get a lovely photo just like this one. There's a couple of students from last year who graduated here in Gladstone and did steps. Angela finished her Bachelor of Accounting, and Tara there finished her Bachelor of Nursing. So keep that in mind. I'll be chasing you down for a photo. We're always very proud of our STEP students. All right, everyone. So we can see the light. So nearly at the end of the tunnel, just a couple more things to go. But thank you for joining us and for being such a wonderful group and for coming along to these lectures and for being an active learner and participating. We always love to see you. Yeah.